bit of what you're doing and who you are, because I mentioned our conversation on a couple of streams to some people in my community, and they're like, "Oh." And so then I see you're playing with StreamYard. And so one of the buttons down below there, you've got us sort of side by side. If you want, you can sort of bring us up close too. There's a little button where you can, there you go.
Oh, yeah, fancy. Nice close
And
up on your face.
right. Well, why don't, Corey, why don't we talk a little bit about your story? What led to you having a YouTube channel that is Redeemer Online Church, and what on earth are you trying to do with it?
That's a good question. You know, it was started by a friend of mine when his church went all online for COVID. They started producing videos instead of having in-person services, and then shortly right before they were about to go back to in person, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're going to go back to in person, but there are some people who have connected with us online who are just never going to come in person, but they find connecting to this digital version meaningful and valuable. Would you be willing to come?" It was pitched to me to come provide pastoral support, which I did, and it became a sort of little experimental digital church plant. And from there, I started, I've planted an in-person church in the past. My desire is still just to help people understand and practice the Christian faith. I've noticed, and I don't have a full breadth on the internet, but I've noticed that a lot of the way Christianity gets talked about on the internet it's either, we were talking about this the other day, it's either conspiracy theory or it's just all a toilet to culture war stuff. And I wanted to present a Christianity that was just common and helpful, that would actually work in your life. And I wanted especially to target people who are interested in that, but are no longer interested in the institutional church for whatever reason. They just can't get on board with the church. And I know the conventional church has a desire to figure out how to speak to culture. And I see Redeemer Online as being a way to help with that without having all of the hangups with the physical brick and mortar version.
Okay. What are you doing right now?
Right now with Redeemer Online, it's been this kind of three-pronged approach. It's content creation, which is that like non-conspiracy theory, non-culture war, but just the historic, I would think, the historic Orthodox Christian faith, but presented in a way that works in your life. And then I invite people to have one-on-one conversations with me, like discipleship conversations we would use in the church world, right? But sometimes this takes on less of a didactic, I have all the answers and I'm going to give them to you. And it ends up taking on more of a like spiritual coaching approach. What do you want to learn? Where do you want to go? What's getting in the way of that? And how can I help you explore those areas? And then from that, the idea was maybe some of those folks who have entered into that one-on-one discipling conversation with me, some of them may want to start living these practices that we talk about with other people in their own area. And so we started thinking about like, okay, what would it look like to plant, house churches or just small communities of people who are committed to these practices of faith that actually benefit their lives. And especially, hopefully, in a way that meets people where they're at, that the conventional church just isn't able to do. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Okay. Let me see what I can do here. I'm going to drop the I'm going to drop the YouTube the link to your YouTube channel. You have a website too that you use in addition to that, or just the YouTube channel?
Yeah, I have a website as redeemeronline.church.
That's a pretty good get. Good old .church.
.church, pretty straightforward.
Oops. I'm going to drop that in the comments. Now, Phlebas, I'll introduce you to some of the characters who have joined in the chat. Clara is a PhD student at Notre Dame. Had a little bit of church background, but not really any church in her life right now. And she met another guy in the corner named Sourdough Neil. And she was sitting in coffee shops having the kind of conversations that I have. And he came up to her and said, "Oh, you're doing Randall's conversations like Paul Vanderklay online." And she's like, "What?" And so then he started explaining about what we were doing. And then she says, "Oh, I'm curious about this. It's kind of what I'm studying with my PhD in sociology." So she jumped into the community. Neil Daedalus, who I just got to meet a couple of weekends ago, is a tech guy who lives in I won't out him too much on personal details, but he came to the retreat, the estuary retreat that I did at my sister's place. He's a Roman Catholic, was raised in a mainline church, and McMosa was an evangelical minister in a mega church and got bounced out of ministry. He's got an interesting story. Let's see who else wants to. Yes, he does randos, Clara. Mark D. Parker, unlike how his name sounds, is actually not a serial killer. Mark D. Parker lives in Redlands, California, and he was also at the estuary retreat. And he has a very interesting story. He's currently going to, his story. You'll have to find his channel. So William Branch is he has more comments on my channel than any other person. And he has a conversation with Mark D. Parker on Mark D. Parker's channel. So one of the things that you can do with YouTube once we're done making this video, you can go back on it. And once YouTube sort of reassembles the live chat, you can click on their names. Now, actually, Mark Parker is in that list on that website I gave you. Yep. I rebuilt it a little bit. So he does live streaming. Clara does live streaming. Sam Ewing is a very interesting guy. He's actually a Reformed guy who's been on the channel a number of times. And so he's a Reformed Protestant. That's so far who showed up in the what we tend to call the hive mind, and that was from Grim Grizz. And so Amanda is a local around here, and she wonders what she scrolled into. Now, what you scrolled into was I had this conversation with Corey a couple of days ago, and he was talking about it was so funny because he was telling me about how he's starting this thing, and he says, "Yeah, but I'm having a little trouble getting traction of people wanting to talk to me online." And I said, "Oh, wow. Do I have the people for you?" And yeah, but Doc doesn't do the online thing. So so Corey, tell us a little bit about Phlebas is a Canadian who grew up CRC.
Okay.
See, and again, what's beautiful about the corner is that what I wanted from day one is that all of these names of people that come on, I know their stories, even just a little bit. Some of them I have met in person, and I have been developing relationships with all these people. Yeah, the Dutch are here. The Dutch are here indeed. So, Corey, why don't tell me about the home you grew up in? That's always my first question in a Randall's conversation.
Sure. I didn't expect us to have a randos conversation. This truly is random. I'm not prepared for this, but yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
Oh,
All
I'm
right.
supposed to be writing my sermon, so I can't go too long. But
Yeah. And I'm supposed to be editing the sermon video, so I'll be around for a little bit longer. But all right. So the house I grew up in, um, I would say a Christian Reformed church household in Southern Ontario. My mom was the church organist, and my dad was a faithful attender. And by that, I mean, when mom left first thing in the morning, and the house was my four brothers and I and my dad would put on Raise a Little Hell, and we'd all rock out while we cleaned up dishes and whatnot, and then hopped into our giant Chevy Beauville van and got dragged to church, where we sat dutifully in a pew, not hopefully out of the reach of my dad, with his long arm on the back of the pew behind each of us. Um, and that was my sort of growing up church experience. When I turned, I think about like 14 or 15, I found church very boring and thought I could maybe play a part in making it at least more interesting for myself. So I started learning to play guitar, and my mom brought me in to do music with her at church. We had a great mother-son band going. Um, then I got some other young people involved playing music and whatnot. Anyway, you didn't ask about church, but I grew up. So my dad was he started out as a produce manager in a grocery store, and that meant all of us boys, there's five of us, we all ended up getting part-time jobs in grocery stores by the time we were 12 or 13 years old. Some of my brothers still do that, work in grocery store business. Um, what else about my house growing up? Every summer,
what town in Canada?
St. Catharines, Ontario.
All right.
So just like 5 minutes down the highway from Niagara Falls.
Okay. Now you got into the ministry, or did you go to Redeemer?
I did. Yeah. I went to Redeemer. I tried to get it into Brock, but to become a teacher, but my grades weren't good enough to get into their teaching program. And my understanding was that if you paid tuition, you could go to Redeemer. And I went there still with the thought of like I would be a teacher. And then I started getting involved in some ministry stuff, and it's one of those things where you feel like you catch a wave and things go really well, and you think, wow, maybe this is what I'm made for.
And so, well, what was your first call into ministry like?
What do you mean by call?
Well, what was your first gig in professional ministry?
In professional ministry, like after I graduated seminary, my first gig was I got tricked into planting a church in Caledonia, Michigan.
Scott Greenway is a very tricky man.
He is. He's a good man. He's a tricky man. Scott invited me out to lunch one day. I was a student at the seminary, and he says, "Hey, our church is gonna. We'd like to start something new. We want to start something we call this new worshiping community." And it had this very mysterious language about it. And then he sort of, as he's talking about this thing, he said, and we're wondering if you'd like to intern for the person who leads this new community. So he was offering me the opportunity to have an internship working with a church planter, which I thought would be a phenomenal deal. I mean, I'm not done seminary yet. It would be a paid internship. I'd get some good experience in an area I was interested in. So I said, absolutely. And I started on the job, and they mostly had me, there was no church planter yet. They mostly had me doing like teaching high school Sunday school class and doing some Sunday evening worship service preaching, and all of those things kind of went well. But they're things that like interns do, but they're not like church planting intern things. And so about 6 months in, I remember sitting down with Scott and one of the administrators, Sue, and I was like, where's the guy? Where's the guy you guys said that I would intern for? And Scott was like, well, we're kind of thinking you'd be the guy. And that was how I got tricked into planting a church. And so they basically gave me a blank slate and said, what would you do if you could do anything? And we went on quite the adventure there.
Clara wants to know about your call to ministry. Tell me about that.
Ooh. Let's do like little vignettes. When I was like 2 or 3 years old, I was the kid in church who stood up on the pew when the pastor or the priest like does the blessing, and they raise their hands. And in our church, everybody like look away as soon as it happens. That was just, I don't know, that was the formality of it. You bowed your head, you looked away, and the pastor raised their hands. But for whatever reason, I guess I would stand up on the pew and raise my hands back at him. And my mom says that, like, because of that, she always knew that I was supposed to do ministry. Then when I started getting involved, like I said, doing music and stuff at church, I always had this little connection to church through music. When I went to college, I didn't really plug in anywhere for church. And a friend of mine, we started playing music together, and he was like, hey, you should come play music for this show we're doing. And turned out the show was just a midweek church service. And that just got me more involved in that. I was doing a bunch of church music stuff. And one of my mentors said, hey, you should get involved in youth ministry. And so I did that. And we were on a mission trip, and I was sitting with students, just like sort of walking with them through their experience of being on the mission trip. And by the end of the trip, of just talking through matters of faith and service with them, I felt this like strong sense, like, I think I'm made for this. And I think in the Reformed tradition, we talk about the inner sense of the call and the outer sense. That was my inner sense of call, and the outer was like everyone around me was affirming this. Like, yeah, you're made for this. Mentors would be encouraging me to like not stop at full-time youth ministry, but to continue on to seminary, consider being a pastor of a church. So that was like some quick little vignettes of my call.
Okay. What Sferen G, yes, I am having Bridge of Meaning Discord Q&A tomorrow morning, 10 to noon, as usual. This is an extra stream. I saw Corey playing around with StreamYard, and I know he needs a little help getting introduced to the TLC. And because we didn't record our initial conversation, I knew I would have to do something at some point. And so while he was online, I thought, oh gosh, there's no better way than to just do it right now. So we've been talking about his call. You can go back and catch up and watch the whole thing and see what we've been talking about. What year were you ordained?
2016.
2016. Okay.
Yep.
2016. And who currently holds your credential?
Redeemer Christian Reformed Church in Sarnia, Ontario. And for, everybody's new to my face, I live just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. So that's a fun long distance ordination relationship.
Well, that's super interesting. We'll have to hear about more about that, but probably another time. Let's see. So yeah, I don't know how much time you have, or if you want to drop a link so that other people can jump in and ask questions if they have them.
Sure.
So if you copy and paste that link back in the comments section, I can also try to get it so that it goes.
Is it this? Should I just repost the link into the
Yes,
comments?
the link. And if you have access, it's a little trickier to pin it. You can't really pin it from StreamYard.
Oh, I've got to go on to YouTube and pin it.
Yeah, you would. So just drop it again. So that's fine. So questions are, who shows up to online church?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's asynchronous. So it's there is no one gathering for people. I think of it more as a resource for your discipleship, and the church happens sporadically wherever two or more end up gathering.
Okay.
Just looking for that.
Where's the coffee in online church?
Where's the coffee in online? Is that what you said? Where's the coffee in online?
That's what
church?
Clara wants to know.
Oh, Clara, you got to bring the coffee. Sounds like you like to hang out in coffee shops, so that's good.
She does. She does. Nobody wants to jump in here, huh? I think they were sort of answering. You know Nate Van Dennen?
Nate Van Dennen. Yeah. Nate and I know each other. We've interacted at classes a couple because we're in the same classes.
Okay. One of the things you'll have to figure out is it's very hard to live stream anything outside because of the wind noise. You can do it pretty well in a car or a room with a lot of windows. I know you weren't planning on it, so.
Yeah. Are you hearing a ton of wind?
There is some wind noise, yeah. And so, but that's not too bad. My first video was atrocious. And with YouTube, people will forgive a lot of things in video, but audio, which is actually deceptively difficult, those audio sins are unforgivable sins on the internet.
You know, I did not. You're right. I did not expect to really much of anything to come out of this. This was my chance to play with StreamYard, and Paul, you decided to jump on here and bring your tribe, which is great. But I normally will do this in my office with a microphone and not all kinds of wind.
Do people give money to an online asynchronous church?
Some people do. If the mission of it is to help people understand and practice their faith, especially if they don't go to church. And so if you find it helpful, some people find it helpful for that in their own life, and there are a few people who give. And then it's also supported by outside individuals who believe that, man, there's no Christian Reformed Church presence online in this way. That's like it's 100% for a digital, 100% for a digital audience that calls itself church. And there are a few that are like kind of playing around, at least that I've been connected to. Like I said, I don't have a handle of the entire internet, obviously, but so some people who feel like, hey, this is worth investing in. There's outside investment in it.
Okay. So you have support in your ministry.
Yep. Yeah. There is some support. Yep.
So what do you mean that there's no Christian Reformed presence online?
No. You didn't. That's not. I'm. No. What I mean is there.
Have I been disowned so quickly?
There's. No, Paul. Come on. You're the flagship CRC YouTuber. There's a difference there's a reason why the channel's not called Corey Van Heusen. And it's called RedeemerOnline.church.
Okay.
The goal here is to create something that can function in some of the ways that the conventional church does function, but is unable to reach some of the population.
Okay.
And it's a bit of an experiment.
McMo wants to know if you have opinions on quote unquote Christian YouTube. I think the difficulty, McMo, that he's going to have with that is that I use that term in a very particular way.
Interesting.
What are your opinions of Christian YouTube, if you could guess what I might be thinking about when I say it that way? why do this? What's wrong with the Christians that you see on YouTube?
So we touched on, at least from my perspective, based on what algorithm, Big Algo feeds me on a regular basis, which is probably because I get suckered into clicking on it. Is most of what I see pop up is often it's either a funnel to conspiracy theory or a funnel to culture war, and on whatever your pet issue is. And I wanted to do something that felt like it was accessible and common for everybody.
Now, I know at least some of the members of our community are going to take offense at the way you sort of dismiss conspiracy theory, but we'll leave that one there.
Sure.
Have you ever worked for an American intelligence organization?
I didn't see that question pop up.
No, but I need to ask.
Oh no, I haven't.
Do you have a Canadian passport?
I have a Canadian passport. I'm not an American citizen, although I'm considering just going ahead and ditching my green card renewal and going for citizenship instead. But that's getting tossed around up here.
Okay. Have you ever been invited to the exclusive Justin Trudeau late night parties?
No.
Can you still get into Canada, or have they banned you? Oh, okay. You can still get into Canada.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure about that.
We're going back for Christmas.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
All right. Why Memphis, Tennessee?
My wife is a postdoc researcher at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So she's got her PhD in stem cell biology, and she works in a lab that's trying to improve the bone marrow transplant process.
How sure are you that your wife will still want to be married to you when she makes way more money than you do?
Oh, I'm banking on that. Absolutely. She knew what she got into when she married a minister. I joined the short line in career day, as one of my friends used to say, and it was a mistake on the money front. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, unless anybody wants to jump in, this is sort of your last chance.
I see Mark D. Parker's trying to jump in.
Oh, let him in.
All right.
There you go.
I tried to help this along, but I was getting an AHAMA treatment.
Corey,
I'm so sorry
what that means, but it means something.
it's so much coded language in all this space. So
I feel like I'm in a different country with a different language. It's going to take me a little while to learn it.
Yeah,
indeed.
There's churchianity in churches, and here there's TLC speak online. And very quickly, if you have a community, the memes well up.
How committed are you to your Reformed theology? It's an important question if you're going to come into this place and try to start a church, I think.
Oh, interesting. What makes you say that? Sorry. Also, Mark, I'm so sorry for taking so long to let you in. I saw you.
No. I was fine. I was having technical difficulties anyway.
All right.
So and Paul was saying nobody's hopping on, but the link was on. All the activity in the chat is on his channel, and he didn't have the link on his channel.
Let me try and drop the link in my channel, YouTube chat.
Sure.
Well, it's just I think if you hang around this little corner with the flotilla of channels here, it's just diversity of opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And as Paul knows, it's like herding cats. And I at Paul's retreat, I opened my thing that got by simply saying, there's trying to convince you people of anything is like a fool's errand. because it's a very challenging place. A lot of smart people, a lot of strong opinions, and so I wonder about how much control of the narrative you think you have going into starting a church online. Maybe that's a good question to ask.
Ooh, that's a great question. Control of the narrative. I bet there's a lot of wind coming through right now. So just heads up. I apologize for that.
It's okay.
Oh, that's such a great question. One, I don't have any control of the narrative. There's such a wide plurality of voices. Here's a thought that I've been sort of trying on lately, especially as I've been interacting with established churches who are considering supporting Redeemer Online, which there are some, believe it or not. I suspect that in a conventional church setting, you don't have nearly as much control of the narrative as you think you do. And that there's also a plurality of opinions and voices there. You've got 1 hour once a week with these folks, and they're inundated in the other 167 hours with other messages and narratives. And they also participate in other messages and narratives that entire time as well. Some of them align with the truth, some of them diverge from the truth or in conflict with it. So I don't think any of us, this is the thought I'm trying, is I don't think any of us really has as much control over the narrative as we think we do. But what I'm hoping to provide is a version of the Christian faith and practice that can work and make sense in an individual's life and be something that they can gather around with other people. That's my hope. But it remains to be seen. We'll see. It seems to be working with some folks, but at the same time, as I interact with them, it's very clear that I'm under no illusion to believe that I control how they think or what they think. I mean, people are filled with a wide diversity of ideas and opinions, as am I. So,
well, and this is part of the reason I said, because we were talking about these issues a little bit, and I said the only way you can level up with this kind of stuff is practice. And boy, do I have people for you. As I've been telling Mark Lefevre, you should go on. Friday afternoons. You can usually visit Mark on navigating patterns. I just recommended that Mark be a little gentle. Mark, but some of our people, I don't know what the word is. What? Straightforward. They've got a bunch of different things we can talk about, but
and not to be confused with Mark D. Parker.
Mark D. Parker,
different Mark.
Are quite different people.
Very different.
Sure. Oh, should I get Nate? I'm sorry, Nate's in the queue as well.
Yeah, let him in too.
Is that all right with you, Mark?
Oh, no, you don't ask us. You just do it.
Oh,
and again, but the rule is you have to see their face.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. All right, and Nate, make sure your face is showing.
Door mask. That's Chad the alcoholic. You can let in a mask, but nobody else.
Gotcha. Hey, Nate, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I happened to catch you on Twitter, and I thought, hey, I'll jump on and see how this is going. What I wanted to ask you, though, is this isn't your first rodeo with online church. Right? Like your church, I think in Michigan, did have an online piece before. And what did you learn from doing it there that you're now bringing in here?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for bringing that up. So the church that we planted in Michigan was a network of house churches. It was all in person. And then when But we made it very clear in the sort of ethos of the church that if you are a part of us, you're in one of our, we call them house gatherings. That's what it means to be a part of this church. And those were groups of people who committed to a rhythm of serving, of gathering for spiritual discipline, and of just holding invitational gatherings, inviting friends, neighbors to enjoy life together. And that happened on a monthly basis. So 1 week serve, 1 week spiritual discipline, 1 week sort of like backyard barbecue or go out or something. Depended on the group, it was always different. And then on Sunday mornings, started Saturday nights, but then shifted to Sunday mornings in a local bar. We would bring those gatherings together, and we'd have like your normal church service, only there were beer taps in the back. And eventually we outgrew that space and we moved into a rental hall. And that was, then it started feeling like the word people used was real church. And right around that time, we started really rolling on, screaming towards real church DNA, and COVID hit. And we weren't allowed to meet. And our groups, for the most part, could continue meeting because they were under whatever the number restriction was. And so what we did was I started creating video content and resources for the groups to use when they meet. So they would still have a Sunday morning service together, or they could still have their spiritual discipline Bible study or something. But it was just all video content that resourced those gatherings. And that sort of informed what I've been trying to do with Redeemer Online here, is using video, creating video resources for people's discipleship, and then hopefully to try and get groups off the ground as well. Although that's, so far that's been met with limited success. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah, you can boot me off now and give the spot to somebody else. But I was just curious about that, because you're, in some respects you're doing something new, but in some respects I think you're still trying to feel this out. Like, how's this go? And I mean, Paul's kind of figured out who his people are, so to speak. I think you're still trying to figure out who yours are. Like, it's still.
Oh yeah. It's not entirely clear who the. That's part of. So the reason I reached out to Paul, actually, probably, I think initially I reached out to him in the spring or the summer, and I'd catch his videos and live streams every now and then, and I'd look at it and go, okay, he's having a different kind of digital interaction, and I want to learn from that. I'm having a lot of one-way conversations, and then having like formal video calls with people one-on-one. And there's not a lot of group interaction like this. And so I wanted to learn about that because I felt like that was missing and was an opportunity for Redeemer Online to grow. But I think the more I do this, the more I open up. I'm thinking about just experimenting with open office hours. And, once or twice a week, I'll just come on a live stream, whoever wants to come hang out. And then we'll start to get a sense for like, who's really, Paul and I were talking like, there's 2,000 subscribers to Redeemer Online, but like, who are those people and what's the level of their engagement? And I think doing this will start to, people will start to pop up, and we'll get some repeat and get a better handle on like who's hanging out. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you've got to get
Thanks.
people out of the lurk. And,
yeah. And in some ways, I'm like, I think that might take some time, because I've almost created a culture in which the online communication is one way, or at least it has been up until this point, unless you make an appointment. So.
And one-way communication is not really communication.
No.
It's basically an electronic sermon, and there's already plenty of that online. So
yeah, exactly. So it's basically, it's like an advertisement. It's probably just way too long. Yeah.
So All right.
Cool.
Anybody else anybody else need to be bumped up to the room or not? Or are we ready to shut this down?
There's a whole bunch of comments that I have not responded to. I'm now just seeing what's my favorite flavor of ice cream. This is great. This is great. It's too revealing. Yes, you're absolutely right. Ice cream is too revealing. Obviously, it's chocolate chip cookie dough.
So
thanks for hanging out. It's great to meet you all.
So
Good to meet you.
basically, I really like your online office hours. And when you decide to have them, let me know, and I'll post them on my little thing. I'm trying to do a little bit of more organization. I have, yeah. So that's when I say that, I trigger an entire thing in the thing. So I'll be careful with that. But which I don't want to get you roped into. But
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, though, Paul. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your help with this too.
well, and now for those of you who are watching, I am live streaming tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time, Friday, with the Bridges of Meaning question and answer, which I do the first Friday of the month. And if they're talking wrong on my questions, then there might be some open forum, open studio after that. But if you're interested in what Corey is doing, the name of his channel is let's see. I dropped this in it's Redeemer Online Church, and he's got a website which is, I'll drop that again so people can find it. And well, Corey, let me ask you, are you on Twitter?
No, I've not ventured into Twitter. We got.
All right, I'm not recommending it, but my question is, if someone wants, so in my corner, people often want to tell their stories, and now we've got a whole bunch of new people that they can talk to. But if someone wants to talk to you or contact you, how can they do that? What's the best way?
All my information is on the website. It's on. I'm pretty sure my email address shows up on every single video, so I should be pretty easy to reach if you like.
Okay, so redeemeronline.church is your website, and people can check that out. And so it's Corey. So for those of you who've heard me refer to this online pastor in the last couple of videos, this is the guy, and you can find him. And I told him that he should probably pop into live streams. And again, if you start scheduling your own, and I love the online office hour framing, I think that's a good framing. Just start doing it regularly, and people will come.
Great. Yeah, thank you. All right.
Thanks,
everybody.
Take care, Corey.
Nice to meet you all. See ya.
Bye-bye.